Hello traders, this is my end of the day video for Wednesday, the first full week of 2019. I will be working tomorrow, so you won't see me in the trading rooms or anything. I am net long in the markets. I have some Boeing carrying it overnight, and I have some Goldman Sachs carrying it overnight, and some US Steel. I carried it overnight. And, you know, we're bumping into some resistance areas going into this big uh, uh, Trump press conference. He's going to have all the networks and stuff. Him having a big uh, thing tonight, talking about his wall and how he's going to do things and stuff. But basically, what I'm expecting for him to announce tonight that he is going to actually uh, reopen the government because he's getting under serious pressure about that. So I see him announcing that he's going to reopen the government, and he's going to take funding from the Defense Department to fund his wall project, which people don't realize. We spend $70 billion a year for our defense budget, where Russia only spends like I think it's 40 billion. Or we spend 700 billion. I think that's what it was, and then Russia spends 40 billion. So yeah, they're so far behind us on the budgets for defense spending. They are not a problem. So I don't see a big problem in it, but the Democrats are going to have a big hee haw about it. What I am seeing here, I have highlighted and drew heavy duty lines on the 20. This is the 2016 developing point of value that we came into 2017. We blew right out of it and never really came back into it. And as of this correction, we came back down into it on the SPY. Well, what we're doing right now, the 2017 actual value area we were supposed to be trading in, we are right here at value area high as of the close. I mean, we are just right here to the tick. That's where we're at. And what I'm kind of looking for, you see this breakdown we had? I think we're going to have some responsive push above that. This is 80% of the volume for 2016. And if so, just keep that in mind that just because we have this line right here and it is a serious resistance zone, I do think we're going to be poking up above that a little bit, and I don't think its run is over with. That's why I am net long the markets, and we do have you see this little room in the volume profile. So the 258.10 area, that's going to really act as some significant resistance to try to push up into the next distribution, in my opinion. So basically, I think we're going to gap open up slightly higher tomorrow morning. That's why I went net long. Okay. Then here's another thing. We have. I did the same thing. I highlighted the yearly value areas. Okay, and this right down here, this red line, heavy red line right here, that was the 2017 value, and we've rocketed up on the Qs into this volume distribution zone. And pre-market, we hit a high pre-market today, and we never did come back to that and retest it. And I think that's what's going to happen tomorrow. We're going to retest those highs for a potential move even higher. And this is the a prior swing high. We haven't even gotten to that yet. So keep that in mind back on 1218. That's what it looks like, this scenario to me. We're going to be retesting this 1218 high on the Qs. Okay. Okay. We are solidly trading inside the 2017 range. This is the volume point of control for 2017, and this is the volume area high for the Russell. So it's not even gotten out of the 2017 trading zone yet, and you can see it over here. Here's the 2017 trading zone down here. So my theory is IWM is going to come up and test value area high, and that's the point to which we're actually probably going to start seeing a responsive selling. Uh, but given the relative strength and the news out of Boeing today, on they reported their backlogs. They got a 7-year backlog in Boeing. I mean, how can you sit there and be overly bearish this market when you got backlogs all the way out 7 years? I mean, that's you know, it's really difficult. But the markets can sell off, and but I do see room to the upside, and we had this downward trend line here. Uh, and if you zoom, let me see here if I can zoom this real quick. Give me a second here. There it is. My sell. There we go. And if I go out in the longer time frame here, about 90 days, you can see this primary trend line. We've had this for quite a while here, and we have looked above it before, and we almost tested it last time, but we're right there right now, and we're going to be, if we just open up where we're at right now, we're going to be crossing above that tomorrow. So if prices just hold right here on the Russell, we're going to be testing a primary trend breakout, which we have done one time in the past. So keep that in mind. That's one of the reasons why I thought. And oh yeah, on this same time frame, if you go back to the Qs, this is another reason I thought. See this trend line right here? We had a gap and go on the Qs last time that we came up to this trend line, and we're right. One of the times we came back, and we closed right there again. So just keep that in mind. There is always the potential for a gap and go scenario because it has happened once before, and things can tend to happen again. So this is an area which I think there is a high likelihood that we gap up tomorrow, in my opinion, depending on the news tonight. Okay, let's see here. Where can I stop this for a sec? Some primary things I'm looking at here. First of all, skew. Yesterday we had a up market, but they weren't buying calls yesterday. And despite the rally in the market yesterday, they were not buying out of the money calls. They were buying out of the money puts. And so we had an extreme low read on our skew. So that's, and then today, on the flip side, we had a rally in the markets, but they were still buying more out of the money calls than they were out of the money puts. Okay. So just keep that in mind that there was people willing to put on some out of the money, even at these resistance areas. They were starting to speculate to the long side on the out of the money puts today, and this is an extremely skewed skew to the put side going into significant news events this week. You got potential any type of an agreement with China, and it could be a major catalyst. And then plus with what Trump's doing tonight, just getting that behind us, I think that in itself, if he can somehow convince the public that we're putting this behind us, the whole debate over the wall, if we can somewhat settle this scenario tonight in the conference tonight, I think that those are two major bullish scenarios for the markets tonight. Just getting the news flow behind us, and like I said, that news that came out from Boeing today was quite impressive, and it's very difficult. And after that, but even before that news came out, we had some major upgrades in Union Pacific, and the railroads were really outperforming even the industrials today, and the industrials were up, and that's a major sign that I had mentioned in my last video that I had thought that we had potentially we were going to start seeing some outperformance in the industrials and the transports. Well, that's what we got. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about, and that is the yield curve. And basically, you see the financials, the spread between the 10-year and the 2-year, that's where the banks make their money. So going into this earnings season, we already know the banks are going to have a very bad earnings season. Look at how these spreads have collapsed on the uh, between the 10 and the 2 years. Okay, what we're seeing here is maybe a bear cat bounce for the financials. So just keep that in mind. And Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley, which are they do trading, I think they're going to blow out numbers. But like Citi and Bank of America and J.P. Morgan, those are the stocks that I think are going to be under extreme pressure when the actual earnings numbers do hit the tape. Okay, just keep that in mind. So the spread right here is what we really got to be worried about. And here, back on early January, you see how close the spread was? We have an expanding spread here. And if you go out here on the daily, let me get this adjusted for you. Okay. And you started seeing a little bit of a sell off in the 2 year treasuries going into the close, and where the 10 year was holding up. So we did catch a little bit of a bid. Um, so just keep this on your radar of what's going on here. Basically, we really want to start seeing the spread widen for a bullish scenario for the financials. And I did take care of Goldman Sachs overnight because that is a dogs of the Dow stock that hasn't really moved. It's already popped some, but it hasn't done too much yet. But I do think there's a lot of opportunity with Goldman Sachs going into earnings. And if going in the interest rate situation, when bonds come down, that means interest rates are going higher. And TLT is the bond for the 10-year treasuries or 10-year yields. And as you can see right here, we are pushing down below this primary uptrend line on the 10-year treasury, suggesting that we're catching a bid in our yields on our 10-year. And if that's the case, and if the 2 year were to start falling off, that means a lot of people have poured into the 2 year treasuries like they've poured into the VIX over the sell off as a safe haven. So what we want to see is people pulling money out of the 2 year and a bid up in the 10 year to improve those spreads for the banking sectors, which I think that's what's setting up here going into earnings season. Facebook is one of the FANG names that I'm really. I made some money on it today. I did close out my position. I do think there's still plenty of opportunity. It's probably going to gap up tomorrow. Uh, Basically, I had too much risk on for the overnight session, so I did take Facebook. But yeah, the 146.90 area seems really easy here, based on this fib fan channel situation. Since we've broken out of this trend, I can almost I really think it's going to come up to 150 area on Facebook here now that if we do get some responsive buying in this market, I think there's a significant possibility that Facebook can catch a nice bid for the next couple weeks. So just keep this one on your radar that Facebook is of the fangs is my by far my most bullish scenario uh, going for the next couple weeks if the markets do manage to hold a bid here. And like I showed you with the skew, if the markets do start popping here, there's going to be a massive squeeze hit here really soon if the bears can't hold down the markets here. Another trade we need to keep on watch here. This has been going on for a couple months now. This is our dollar index, Dixie, and we came right off of a responsive breakdown zone today, crossing out of a fib fan zone. And you can see once we start breaking down out of that, it can come down pretty hard here. So just keep this in mind on our Dixie. Basically, we need to start seeing a bid in the euro to drive this pair down. And if we can start seeing a bid in the euro, that means that we're probably going to see a bid up in the crude oil space. Okay. And I took some profits this morning on Occidental Petroleum and CVX early on, and I took them off. I wanted to wait because we didn't get it confirmed. It wasn't confirming the breakdown, and there is considerable technical support at these levels. So uh, this is something that I want to see a confirmed breakdown for a driving force for the crude oil space. Okay, there's still a scenario out there that crude oil is going down into the mid 30s this year. So you want to be careful not pushing too hard in that scenario. And another thing, a pressure that could be supportive of the dollar at these prices, if we do start catching a responsive bid in our yields on the 10-year, that's going to give a little bit more support for the dollar even at these high elevations. So just keep that in mind. The primary thesis, you want to bet on the yields getting higher versus the dollar getting lower. Okay, if you had to bet on the two, but primarily if you're going to get a breakdown in the dollar, you're really wanting to look towards the euro getting weaker for whatever reason, and we'll see what happens there in that scenario. Well, actually, the euro catching a bid. I'm sorry, not getting weaker. The euro actually catching a bid, and with the whole Brexit thing going on, the euro is not doesn't seem to be catching any type of bid because of the Brexit. Then it hasn't been in the news lately, but that has had a detrimental effect on the euro and keeping the dollar strong. Now, what I want to really show you on your FDN, that's your Internet Exchange ETF. We have a large volume distribution. You see all the accepted volume in this price level. This tells me that the auction isn't done to the upside in the FANG stocks. Okay, so this swing high is very easy to attain even at these price levels. And considering how much we've been moving, we could achieve that on the open tomorrow. So just keep that in mind that up here around the 127 area, we could easily gap up on our FANG names tomorrow because of the way the volume profile is laid out here. Yeah, I posted this on my Twitter feed. Right after the market closed, there was a whole slew of steel company upgrades, 3 or 4 of them. And of course, U.S. Steel wasn't one of them, which of course that's the one I bought. But there was 3 or 4 steel companies all catching a major upgrade after hours going into the speech tonight. And of course, if you haven't heard by now, Trump's new idea on the wall, he's not going to call it a wall anymore. It's going to be called a barrier, fence, or whatever. And it's not going to be a concrete, it's going to be steel uprights. So it's going to be very bullish for the steel sector. And the steel sector's really gotten impacted by the a demand issue because the industrials have shown some recent weakness, and then also the strong dollar uh, has impacted the steel sector. But I see a pattern like this. No, going into a news event, I did want to take a little bit of a speculative long, thinking about 5-10% potential 5-10% pop on the news tonight in the Trump speech tonight. So that's the theory that I put on it. We'll see what happens, but I thought the risk reward was worth it. Seeing the nice solid base down here, and we are going into a news event, I figured it was worth a shot for U.S. Steel to the long side in the overnight session. Okay, and we also have Monster Beverage. They got upgraded today, a really strong upgrade, and Union Pacific. And so those are a couple of things that I'm mentioning here. I'm not really going to go into too much more. You saw my levels. We are into significant resistance here. I hope we gap up, but it all depends on Trump tonight if he can gap us up above some resistance zones and see how the global markets. But I think the global markets in general are on a buy signal here, especially over the news was good out of China today. Uh, we do want to see Germany start poking up above here and holding these breakout levels and putting in a short squeeze here. We gapped up as of today above this downtrend line, but we sold at near the lows of the day. We want to see it coming above this, getting closing price into this gap, and which could very easily, after the move we've had today in the markets, this is a very easy scenario to happen in the overnight session, getting a short squeeze in our German DAX, and it's been having a lot of downward pressure in the markets in the morning sessions. So just keep that one in mind. Okay, that's all I'm going to say today, and I will see you guys later in the week.